everyone. I hope you're doing well. Happy Sunday to all. Happy Easter. I'm posting this video for two reasons. I think it's very important that attention should be brought to the Cal exit movement and what that may portend. I think that we need to pay serious attention to and attempt to reform the election process to eliminate election fraud. I also think that a simple change in attitude may immensely bring progressive and positive and meaningful changes to our state if the basic silent majority decides to involve themselves in the process again in an effort to restore sanity and common sense to our houses of government. Um, I'm not sure how many people are aware of the Cal exit movement and how extensive election fraud is. Um, I think people need to take a look at this situation here and consider that uh, massive amounts of corruption combined with election rigging could very likely result in the people that are Gavin Newsom's handlers and his supporters effectively shoplifting the state and the fourth or sixth largest economy uh, in what amounts to a massive election fraud scheme. Uh, After I post this, along with this video, I'm going to be posting a series of screenshots and screen recordings that are going to highlight the history of the Cal exit movement, along with Gavin Newsom's antics. There's going to be a screen recording that is two segments that are taken from his first COVID lockdown speech, which I actually sat through the whole 2/3 of before the question and answer period started. And it was quite grueling. But what you'll see in my brief screen recording is that on two occasions, Gavin Newsom basically destroyed his future political career with two Freudian slips, where he described California as a nation state. Now, if you recall, this was the first major speech that Newsom gave after becoming governor under the COVID conditions. And you can be quite sure that he was incredibly nervous. You'll also notice, if you bother to watch the rest of his speeches after this one, he's constantly surrounded by handlers. He wasn't at the first one, and then he made these two verbal missteps, basically giving up the ghost. You need to understand something here. There's several things at play here. Gavin Newsom is being positioned as a potential presidential candidate, not as the president of the United States, which anyone with any shred of political theory knowledge will recognize he doesn't stand a snowball's chance in hell of becoming elected the leader of the United States. But if him and his colleagues and his mentor, Jerry Brown, who's still lurking in the shadows, can pull off a California secessionist movement success, he becomes the president of California. Now, that may make his ambitions seem a little more sensible in that light. You have to understand that while he was giving this speech, locking everyone in their homes with this unconstitutional order, he was extremely nervous. But the brass plum of being the president of the nation state of California was looming in the back of his mind, which I'm quite sure is why he had these two Freudian slips. So the Cal exit movement started and then stopped and then has started again. You have to understand that this is yet another movement that's going to be funded with your tax dollars that have been diverted two or three ways by the same usual suspects. Shoplifting our state and our economy would allow them to basically burn the books and start over with their own little country. And you have to consider the fact that the situation here and the conditions in California have been getting more and more intolerable, particularly for corporations. And that is basically a typical tactic of these people, these string pullers, that like to basically make things as difficult as possible for people so their golden alternative seems palatable. So, as you look around California and you wonder why we have such appalling conditions up and down the economic chain, it may become clear that these people are trying to turn California into a semi third world situation so that the people that are left think it's okay to secede from the Union. Okay. That is basically, in my humble opinion, what's going on, what's been going on. And I'd like to let everyone know that a lot of people don't know that when you take the oath of office, you're not only swearing a verbal contract with the people to uphold and defend their constitutional rights, you have to also attest to the fact that you haven't had any involvement in, I think, something like 10 years preceding your candidacy in any movement whatsoever that has any inclination to fracture the state from the union. It's part of the oath. I don't remember the wording entirely. I can't paraphrase. I'm only trying to paraphrase here. So if you have people like Newsom and Jerry Brown through their ancillaries involving themselves in movements to uh, secede from the union, they're basically violating their oath of office yet again. So people need to know that this is going on. People need to know that election rigging is something that has been going on nationwide for quite some time. People need to know that when here in Long Beach, in the year preceding the 2014 election, they went to the trouble of computerizing the city clerk's office, shoving mail-in and absentee ballots down everyone's throats, and then taking control of the election from the county clerks for that election. And you had this dog and pony show par excellence as a result of that, with fundraising to the point of half to a complete $1 million for the last two show ponies in the race, Garcia and Dunn. I remind people that I was also a candidate for mayor in the 2014 election, and I'm not at all surprised with the results. Along with the videos I'm going to post, I'm going to be posting screenshots of other information tied to either Cal Exit or the scandals involving election fraud in Miami, which were exactly the same conditions that were occurring here in Long Beach in 2014, which I tried to bring to the attention of the district attorney's office, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and all of the rest. And all of these attempts to bring some scrutiny and investigation were completely ignored. The best was Camilla Harris when she was the state attorney general, or excuse me, Camilla. I sent her an email as a candidate for mayor describing the circus-like, most likely super fraudulent atmosphere going on here during the 2014 election in Long Beach, and requested election oversight. And her official response was that she didn't think it was necessary. And then you see her golden political career. So, folks, we need people like Chad Bianco in the governor's office to restore law and order, period. Whether it's in the election process, with the state's financial affairs, with the way social services are handled, this situation cannot continue. Because you can see, at least I can see what these political tea leaves are telling me, that there's a movement here to shoplift California from America and create some sort of pseudo-liberal utopia where no one really has any rights. The state owns you, and the people that pulled off this massive crime are laughing all the way to the bank. Well, you bust your ass paying their lifestyles. So everybody needs to understand this is what's going on. Now, the flip side of this whole thing is I want people to kind of consider the concept actually of what it would be like if California actually became a nation. What if this concept that's being dubiously presented to the people and I think they're going to attempt to fraudulently succeed in. What if this was actually an honest, straightforward proposal? The silent majority of moderate, centrist, liberals, Republicans, maybe even some people that are a little zealous liberals or Republicans decide we've had enough and that we want to start over, that we want to become the nation of California. I wonder how people would look at their roles as a citizen of this new nation, and how they would view the current policies if we were to actually form a national body and we were to actually become another country. I mean, how would you view immigration? How would you view all of this fiscal mismanagement and corruption? How would you view your responsibility as a citizen and your necessity to be a vigilant watchdog of what's going on in government? I think Californians in general would take it much more seriously. I think that just the concept of California becoming a separate nation, which I think is quite entirely feasible. I think that we have the economic resources and potential to stand on our own 2 feet as an independent sovereign state. But I wonder how the people would look at themselves and look at the way our government is being run if that was on the table. You know, I think it would have a unifying and almost calming and probably healing effect if it was actually proposed and somehow adopted in a legal fashion. So I want people to consider that. There's a movement afoot to shoplift your state and turn it into what amounts to a mafia family empire that I think, in uh, viewed in the context of how we view ourselves as citizens and voters, might change people's attitudes about being so empathetic about the people on the street and all the corruption and all the problems. So I'm just kind of putting this again out there for people to think about, and consider your personal views on how involved and informed and responsible you think you should be as an individual, enjoying the freedoms and rights and opportunities of being an American, despite the circumstances, you know? So there you go, everybody. A little food for thought. And I'm quite happy to present this screen recording of Newsom and his dictator speech, and to bring back attention to these 2 Freudian slips that basically destroyed his political career. You know, he became more or less useless after that. They've been just trying to pick up the pieces. But yeah, so there you go, everybody. Best wishes to everyone. Take care.